All right. Call to order the meeting on Monday, October 25th, 2021 at 2 o'clock. As always, we'll start off with invocation. If you would, just please stand and join me. Our gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for allowing us again another day. And Lord, just ask you to be with us as we conduct the county business. We just ask you to lead, guide, and direct us. And Lord, if there's anyone here who don't know you, Lord, I pray that they come to know you. We ask forgiveness and we fail you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Continue standing for our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Start off the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I now move on to public comments, and we have one person signed up. If you would just say your name, your address, and you'll have 4 minutes. We have Mr. Safarsi.
My name is Sri Ananda Sarvasri, Walnut Cove, 1060 Tyler Road, and I'm here to talk about the COVID situation and the vaccination situation. It's becoming common knowledge that the vaccines are dangerous. The vaccines are a failure and do not protect from COVID infection or transmission. People are willing to quit their job rather than submit to these vaccines. There's no legal mandate to require vaccines. The mandate was just a press conference from Joe Biden and has no legal backing. Children were never at risk from COVID. The vaccines that are available are all experimental. Towns, counties, states, and countries that are fully vaccinated are experiencing an exponential increase in deaths from all causes. The cause of these deaths is not COVID. It is due to the accumulation of spike proteins that degrade every organ in the body. The immune system fails. Dr. Michael Yeadon, former vice president of Pfizer Pharmaceuticals and chief science officer, said that everyone who gets vaccinated will die within 3 years, unless they got the saltwater placebo version. Top virologists agree. Dr. Robert Malone, developer of the mRNA vaccination technology, says that these vaccines should be halted. They are not proven safe. No one should get these vaccines. It is not the unvaccinated that spread disease or mostly die from COVID. It is the vaccinated. Unvaccinated are blamed because you're considered unvaccinated until 15 days after the second shot. That's at least 45 days. So the quote-unquote unvaccinated have actually received 1 or 2 injections. Spike proteins are continually produced by the mRNA technology, and they accumulate until they cause death in 1 or more organs. This happened in all animal studies. The mechanism of death is that the spike proteins abrade the veins and arteries of the circulatory system, causing bleeding and blood clots. When this happens at the capillary level, organs do not receive oxygen and nutrition. When they fail, then they fail. Whether it is the heart, brain, lungs, or other organ, every disease process is accelerated. The greatest danger to the United States is the Joe Biden administration. The Biden administration wants to inject all 5 to 12-year-olds. This is madness. It is both illegal and immoral to coerce or enforce experimental vaccinations of children. It is against the Nuremberg Code. The Nuremberg Code penalty for authorities who force, coerce, or approve experimental medical procedures is life imprisonment or execution. There's some links on this page that I sent. There are numerous medical doctors and virologists, Nobel Prize winners, and others who are saying the same thing. So I have some extra copies of this paper if people want. I cannot stay. I have to be somewhere, but this information needs to get out. I've talked with Brad about ending the mandates at the schools. The mask mandates do not work. It's like trying to keep mosquitoes out with a chain link fence. Masks are completely not functional. Viruses can go right through them, like transparent. Social distancing also doesn't work. And this has all been proven in 46 studies about them not working, and in 36 studies, there's the studies of damage caused by wearing masks and reduced oxygen and what it does to students in the schools. So those 47 and 36 different studies are in the documents that I sent you. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll now move on to our comments from managers and commissioners. I'll start with my vice chairman, Ms. Cox.
All right, thank you. I appreciate everybody being here today and everybody that's joining us online. It's a beautiful fall day, and hope everybody enjoyed seeing the colors on the trees as much as I did on the way up here. And I'll move on down the line here.
Thank you, Commissioner Cox. And I'm going to re-echo what she said. Main thing I always like to say is thank you for coming out and being a part of our governmental process. We work for the citizens of Stokes County. We try to get out and do our due diligence on each issue that comes forward. And I say to each of you, thank you for being here today. And anyone also that is watching live stream, thank you for participating. And I hope you have a wonderful day and a safe journey home. Thank you.
First, I'd like to apologize for being late, but unfortunately, 52 was shut down due to an accident. I heard about 6 cars piled up, so they got the whole interstate shut down in northbound lane. It's great to see everybody. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I'd like to thank everybody that's watching live. Again, appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to welcome all the folks here in the room and those that may be online today that have chosen on this beautiful day to participate with our local government. I wish Mr. Savarsi hadn't left. I was going to pay him a compliment because I find a lot of the information he presented to be very interesting, and I agree with a lot of it, I think. I also definitely agree with his bullet that says the greatest danger to the United States is the Joe Biden administration. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, sir.
He's right on that part.
I do agree with you on that. Good to see everybody here. Some faces I know, some I don't. If I ain't got to meet you, I apologize. I forget to shake your hand before you leave. But yeah, we're blessed. Beautiful day. I heard some storms that might be on the way. I hope it ain't too bad. And Commissioner Barney Castle, talk about your wreck you was talking about. My son called me at 12:30. He'd been sitting there for 30 minutes, very upset. So I'm glad. Hope nobody was injured or.
It's bad.
Yeah. Well, I hope everything gets cleaned up and moving on. But with that, I'll go ahead and pass it on to our county manager, Ms. Shaver.
Welcome to everybody here. We have a larger group today. I don't have much today. I'm glad to see the Via Health group here. It'll be nice to hear from you guys. I know you guys will be interested in what they have to say about how we're moving forward with that initiative. And thanks to the gentleman from the fair coming back out today. So thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 4, conflicts of interest. Before moving any further, does any board member have a conflict of interest of any of the items on the agenda for tonight, or one that could be perceived as a conflict of interest?
Mr. Chairman, I do want to say to our legal advisor, there's one item in closed session that could possibly cause conflict for me. Would it be okay if I, since it's in closed, bring it up in closed session? Would that be okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, we'll move on. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. We'll move on to item 6, the information agenda. Item A, the appreciation for the Stokes County Fair donation. Mr. Steve Page.
Good afternoon. Thank y'all for allowing us to talk to you again today. We did have a great fair this year, and a lot of that is due to what the county commissioners so graciously gave us. It helped pay for a whole lot of stuff for the 4-H and the FFA. A lot of prizes, a lot of stuff that went into the ag building down there, the chips on the floor, the feed for the cows, the goats, pigs, rabbits, and everything, and we certainly appreciate it. We have Ron Thorpe here, he's the assistant fair manager. We have a little plaque that we would like to give to the commissioners for as an appreciation for what y'all have done for us. Ron?
I'm Ron Thorpe, like Steve said, and I'm the assistant fair manager and member of the American Legion. And one thing I'll say about the fair, I was at the state fair yesterday for a fair managers meeting, and while walking around, I did see in the cattle area a reserve grand champion bull or steer came out of Walnut Cove. So I think that's really neat that our county is represented that way. So from the American Legion, this is a certificate of appreciation, and it reads, this certificate of appreciation is gratefully presented to the Stokes County Commissioners in recognition and sincere appreciation of outstanding service and assistance which contributed to the advancement of the 2021 Stokes County Agricultural Fair. And it's presented by the Stokes County Agricultural Fair Committee and the American Legion Post 290. So let me add my thank you. It was a great week, and we saw some of y'all, and it was good to see folks from our county out and about. There were about 10,500, a little over, that came through the gate, and that doesn't include the folks that work down in the agricultural barn and the horticultural area. So we figured there was about 11,000 that came through, and that set some records for us this year.
Wow.
So, and again, thank you very much.
Great to hear.
Thank you.
Y'all have any questions or comments for him?
I just want to say that it's been enjoyable the last 2 years that we've been able to help you. You had some rough times there for a couple of years. You know, I think you had maybe, I don't know if it was a hurricane came through one year that basically wiped everything out during that week, and COVID has certainly been impactful on it. So I think all 5 commissioners were very gracious and wanted to help you all out.
Well, we hope this relationship will continue, and that maybe you would consider making this a formal line item budget to go to move forward throughout the history of or throughout the remainder of the fair years. So
Well, we definitely appreciate the hard work and everything that you guys put into it.
We enjoyed it. Glad it didn't rain this year. Usually,
yeah, you know, when I first started doing this, I heard that if there's ever going to be rain in Stokes County, it's going to be
That week.
the week of the
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
that's usually true.
So anyway,
You
Andy,
want to take it?
Thank you guys so much. Thank y'all.
Thank you, appreciate it. That's all we have. We want to say thank you all again for your help. Enjoyed working with you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, that's nice.
Good day.
We appreciate the plot.
All right, we'll move on to item B, the Avaya health update. And I believe y'all have different individuals, so I'll just let y'all pick whoever comes up first.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Donald Roos, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Provider Network Operations for Avaya Health. Fancy title, which really doesn't mean anything other than it's my job to make sure you have the right services in your counties to help your citizens get their needs met at the end of the day. And so what I'd say today is we have a short presentation for you, but this is all about answering your questions, listening to what you guys have to say to make sure what we're building in your county fits the needs of what you want in your county. And so the presentation today is going to be talking a little bit about what we're planning to build and some of the services that we're going to be pulling in to Stokes County. A couple of months ago, you guys had the opportunity to choose another managed care company to come into your county and to support mental health, substance abuse, IDD services in your community. And you guys had the confidence in us to choose us to come in here and support this work. We've been listening to your leaders across your county, your DSS director, your health department director, other individuals across the county is where are the needs, what do we need to be concentrating at? And substance abuse continue to come up as an ongoing issue across the county. A lot of citizens traveling down into Winston-Salem to access their services. And so there's a really big need to make sure that we eliminate the number one barrier to getting treatment in our communities and across North Carolina, and that's transportation. People just don't have the ability to drive to Winston-Salem and get transportation. Those services need to be accessible to people in their local communities when they need it. And so we've been working, we've got two providers that, we got a couple of providers that we're going to be, they're going to be presenting with me today. These are providers that have agreed, if you guys are willing, that we'll begin developing services in your communities. So a couple of the goals there, thanks for pulling us forward on that, but are to improve access to county substance abuse services. We looked at that, and it's a lot easier on the southern end of services, to be honest with you, to build services, but that's not where this county needs them. We need them up around Danbury. We need them in the upper part of this community because there's no access at all in your upper region of the county for those types of services. So our goal would be to pull those into that area. To build a full continuum of care, not just one service, not two services, but a continuum. Because as people get better or they get worse, they need to be able to get more intensive or less intensive services to meet their needs, continue to be in that recovery services. Reduce barriers, like I said, transportation is the number one barrier across North Carolina and the country for people actually accessing treatment services. They just do not have access to transportation to get to those appointments. Improve engagement rates. So for every one person that says, hey, I want to go get substance abuse services today, there's 10 that are sitting at home that are saying, no, I do not ever want to get substance abuse treatment services, or they don't want to have to show up at an office. And so we have to improve engagement and penetration rates in communities. We have to get out there where they're at, meet them where they're at on the streets, and engage them in those supports so when they are ready to engage in treatment services, we can engage them quickly and effectively. And then lastly, reduce overdose rates across the county. We're seeing spikes in that. Great intro on the COVID piece there. I'm sure you're seeing it in your schools, the number of individuals in the system right now that are has significant issues with anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation is just going up and up and up. We're seeing it across our school systems, all the way from elementary through our high schools, and we need to be prepared. We know that's coming, right? There's a wave. We need to prepare our systems to be able to manage that. So like I said, Stokes County is it's a beautiful county. I've been up here numerous times since we began talking. It's a gorgeous drive up through here, but it's really rural, right? And so getting from Dansbury to Forsyth, Winston-Salem, that's a good little drive. And so our goal is that we're going to put treatment services from Danbury, North Ridge in the county. We already have some treatment services in the lower end of the county. We'll continue to build that out, but our goal is over the next period of time is to build out from around Danbury. Like I said, we have two providers that are going to come up next and talk to you a little bit about their services and our approach. So the two providers you're going to be hearing from today is the Birches Foundation and October Road Incorporated. The Birches Foundation is going to be handling what we call the early engagement process. Those are the people that are out there in your local communities, that are out there working with individuals that may or may not want to get ready to engage in treatment. Those are the individuals your law enforcement may be picking up taken to your jail, but they still don't want services. Those are all points of engagement that we'll be doing with people in the local community. So Burgess will be talking about some of their work. They already do a little bit of work in Stokes, and they'll be talking about what they're doing and how we can expand that. And then October Road, we'll be talking to us a little bit about building a treatment continuum of services here in the county, so when we do identify people and access it, those services and supports are ready for them. So I'll be quiet for a moment, and I'll welcome Wendy to come up and introduce herself and a little bit about her company.
Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be able to come and speak, participate in your local government here. Coming to Stokes County for me is coming home. My name is Wendy Odom, and I am actually a 1985 graduate of North Stokes High School. I grew up in a beautiful little spot called Brown Mountain. Surely some of you know where Brown Mountain is, huh?
All of us do.
And yeah, it's a beautiful place, and I thank God that I grew up there. I am the founder and director of Burgess Foundation, and Burgess Foundation is a nonprofit organization that I started last November. So November of 2020, we officially became a functioning organization. We are a harm reduction entity. And the reason that I started Burgess Foundation is because I lost my own daughter, Jessica Stanley, in 2018, August 23rd of 2018. I lost my daughter to overdose. And instead of allowing what we are all going through, what we're seeing, the people that we know and love, our friends, some of us have family members, some of us are experiencing it in our own homes. Instead of allowing that pain to destroy me, I decided to turn it into love. I'm sorry, y'all. So what we do through our nonprofit is we engage with people who originally were people that perhaps I encountered because of my daughter's life and death. I wanted to reach out and make some type of a difference. And I also lost my mother to an overdose in 2007. So I have personally been impacted by the opioid overdose crisis in a way I probably can't put into words, and I'm going to try not to stand up here and cry in front of you. But what I'm going to say is that what we are doing, we primarily have been functioning in Surrey County. Stokes County makes up about 15% of what Burgess Foundation does. So what we do is we meet people right out in the communities. We engage with people that, as Donald said, may have encountered law enforcement because of their drug use. Social services, they may have contacted through social services. Many have children who are being raised by their grandparents now because they've lost their parents to overdose. Our foster care services they're being hammered because of this epidemic that we're experiencing. And through our services, we have found that we can be a link between, we don't work with law enforcement or directly with social services. We have been our own standalone nonprofit now, but we are finding that networking and developing relationships with all of the other entities in Stokes County, in the county, we're able to reach out and grow almost like a family. It's a business, but my piece is that we meet people where they are. And when we do that, we're able to provide them with Narcan. It's no expense to the taxpayer. And we are able to impact lives that are saved. We're able to impact the workload on our emergency services. We are able to connect individuals with other. Well, I've had so many people tell me, in Stokes County especially, that they would love to go get treatment, but the treatment that they need is in Forsyth County. And if I could take them there, that they would go today. I would love to be able to do that. But, and as much as I personally would love to fix everything myself, it's going to take all of us. So what Birch's Foundation can offer is what we've been offering, but to an even more broad degree, having the support and the relationships with the community. I have my own personal experience, and I don't mind sharing. I'm not ashamed to share. I was a registered nurse, and I became dependent on pain medication back in early 2000s when we were taught and we were teaching that pain was the fifth vital sign, that pain was whatever a person said it was. That was what we were taught to do. That was what we were taught to think. And opioids were copiously provided back in those early days. And that's when the beginning of where we got to how we got here now. I was able, thank God, to get into treatment and to access some of these types of resources that we're hoping to develop here at home in Stokes County. And I have been sober now. I was on medication-assisted treatment for 9 years, and I have been medication-free now for 10 years. And the life I live now is about helping others. And help begins at home. That's what I'm hoping that we're able to do together. In fact, I know that we can. I know that we can, and I appreciate you guys' time. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything that you guys want to know.
Any questions, comments?
Maybe for later. But thank you guys for listening.
I do have one comment for you. Heart goes out to you. I know Caroline that's here with you, as my mother-in-law's neighbor, knew her daughter very well, and it was a tragic event. My heart just goes out to you guys, and I appreciate y'all taking something so hard-hitting to you and turning it into something positive. And,
That means a lot.
well, in my prayers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
So organizations like Wendy are the ones that VIA wants to stand behind. Those are the ones we want to invest in. Those are the ones that care about what happens in people's local communities. And so, Wendy's group with the Birch's Foundation is one of the providers that we want to expand what they're doing across the county. What she said is they're doing a small portion now already in Stokes. We really want to blow that up. We want to support her and put some financial backing behind her organization and just really move that forward. And then make some of those vital connections that she talked about. They need to be connected to law enforcement, to DSS, your emergency medical people. So as those interactions are taking place, referrals can be made to her and they can really go out and really engage these individuals where they at. But that's the first part, is we need to reach out, we need to engage those people. The second part is around making sure that those treatment services are there when they're ready and they want to accept that. And that's where October Road comes in. So I'll ask October Road to come up and talk a little bit about their services and what they would like to bring to Stokes County with your approval. I know, Wendy, you had a great slideshow here, and we just want to run through it real quick here. You guys have that, and I'll let you guys talk a little bit about October Road. Chad, Glenn.
Good afternoon. My name is Chad Husted. I'm Vice President of Operations for Pyramid Healthcare. And
hello, I'm Glenn Kreider. I'm Vice President of Operations with Pyramid and specifically October Road.
Thank you so much for allowing us to talk with you today. I met Donald now, I guess it's going on 7 years ago, when October Road was working with the VIA LME network, and we sat down, and our conversation was really about, how do we serve, the conversation was around Western North Carolina, but it's pertinent to today because I think the answers they fall in line. How you serve a community is you start with the community itself here today, getting feedback. You partner with a community, and you identify locally what is going on. Our role is to resource, the evidence-based treatments that are available, the solutions that we've worked very closely with VIA across multiple facilities across North Carolina and bring those here to Stokes County. What we're proposing is initially begin with intensive outpatient services, individual medication management and psychotherapy services, and MAT services. How that begins for us, or how it's always worked, when we have a successful launch, is we start with a community relations representative. That is someone who's local, from the community, can have conversations at a local diner or a church, and knows, isn't coming from the outside as Glenn and I are doing today, right? Someone from within the community. Identify the the needs of the community, and then appropriate resource solutions. This has to be collaborative because I can sit up here and talk about the national opioid overdose rates or the looming, suicide rates that are being projected. But if it's not felt by you represent the community, correct? So we really want to respond to what your needs are. Donald, when he called Glenn and I, he said that for this to work, this community, this county's needs, are in question, whether they're being met. For us to meet them, it starts with what does Stokes County need? That's where the conversation is today. We identify. Where I feel confident in terms of what October Road can deliver is if we know what the needs are and we know what, where the areas of access, where we lack access, where we lack engagement, and where we lack evidence-based treatments, we can bring that to the conversation. That is something that we have successfully done now for over 15 years at October Road and for over 20 plus years at Pyramid Healthcare. Thank you again for letting us present to your community today, and it was, very, I think it's very meaningful work that we do as our partner kind of introduced, the severity of what we're dealing with, the crisis we're facing as a community and as across the nation. Any questions?
Questions or comments from the board?
I have some at the end. I'm just going to wait till everybody finishes and then
Okay.
have some.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So a couple of their pieces, just to point out in the slides, October Road has agreed to fund that community release position as their point of the community. So they're going to be funding that through Pyramid Group on their own. And so we thank them for that, stepping up and saying, hey, this is a critical need that we want to fund. And so they're going to be funding that as their commitment to the county to really engage the community and do that work. So just wanted to point that out. You'll see on their other slide here the Continuum of Care that we're asking them to provide. One is, comprehensive clinical assessments. That's, we need to figure out like what's going on with somebody to know what services and supports are needed to help them. So they'll be doing assessments, individual groups, and family treatment. We know with our DSS partners, that's really critical. Large number of kids that come into custody with family-related substance abuse needs. So that family treatment's critical. Psychiatric evaluations, medication management. That's for normal doctor-prescribed medication, medication-assisted treatment for opioids and other substances, and then the substance abuse intensive outpatient program for those individuals that need something pretty intensive. And that's really 9 hours a week of group and wraparound case management. So that's a pretty intensive program for our rural community. Lastly, these are the critical pieces for us, right? Is we can bring these providers in, but we need to integrate into your communities and into the systems. And so next steps, with the green light from you guys saying, hey, this makes sense for us in our county, let's move forward. We'll be scheduling meetings with law enforcement, health department, social services, and some other local community organizations, church groups in your communities that really need to know what these services are, how they're going to operate, and really start pulling them in as resources, right? All of these systems have to be integrated in a way in order to make these services work across the system. And so for our next step is we would really focus on those as we build services across the system. We're also looking for office space. Stacy's been great to give us some resources in the community, looking for some potential office space for October Road to provide these treatment services out of. We're reaching out to the local hospital, some other areas. Cardinal had some space in the county. We're looking at whether that would be big enough to use any of that. And so we're always open to that too. If you guys know good resources or an empty building somewhere where we can co-locate some treatment services, we're completely open to that. So with that, I'll be quiet and answer any additional questions.
Mr. Morris, I know you said you had the.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's a good presentation, and I appreciate the heartfelt presentations that we had today. This is a really big problem in Stokes County, and everybody knows it, and she just amplified that point, I think, with the first presentation there. But the problem I have, it's not a problem, but I guess the question I have is, it seems like we just keep having this problem, and we keep having treatment programs, and things kind of stay the same a little bit, or get worse, or maybe a little better, or whatever. And I think I mentioned this whenever we were talking to your folks, the earlier folks that were here for the earlier meetings, that I wish we could get somehow focused on preventing this, these types of, or preventing the need for these types of services. And that last slide you had, if you'll bring that back, that one there, I think that's the key maybe to doing that, is to have community and county integration, but I think we've really got to have a detailed discussion on how these organizations plus other ones, like the school systems comes to mind, and that's probably included under your other community organizations, but what other organizations need to be a part of this problem, and how do we prevent drugs from getting here, and then prevent people from wanting to use them so that we don't have to have so many treatment programs. So, and then the only other part of that would be, how do we measure the results to see if we are in fact making progress or not? So if you guys, as you go forward and we engage with you further, I would really like to see a focus along with the treatment programs on how we eventually won't need them in the future.
Well, I hope we can get to that
You got
day.
any thoughts on that? Or?
Well, we definitely have a lot of thoughts on that. Some days it feels like you're sweeping back the ocean, on some of this. And I hate to say it, but the laws keep getting easier and easier, to access substances in our community. And so a lot of communities, have to work with that law enforcement through really preventative cycles. So I'll use some fancy terms, but we do a lot of work with law enforcement called sequential intercept mapping. Is how do you first identify somebody out there that we can really engage in further upstream of that? Education's important in the local school system and prevention programs, but the amount of available support on the prevention side is like a tenth of the penny of the treatment dollar side of it, and there's not very much on the treatment side. The biggest challenges we have is the majority of people that need to access treatment don't have any insurance. And so, as you know, our legislator regularly has reduced funding for people without, insurance. And so we get into a situation where we got to stretch that dollar so far and make the biggest bang for the buck. And what happens is prevention gets lost in that. And so you get into that, how do you deal with dealing with the problem. But I agree with you. We have to figure out as a system how we get further upstream in our school systems, or else we're not going to ever break the cycle that you're talking about, and you're just going to basically continue to deal with the cycle system. So as far as numbers go, what I will slightly warn you about is when we come into a county and they don't have an aggressive programming around identifying people, your numbers are going to go up before they come down. Right now, you have a silent population in your communities that nobody's counting. And so you may see today that, your numbers are, X amount. Once we start getting out there and really working with individuals and identifying these individuals that really need the support, you're going to see a dramatic spike in the number of people identified, and that's a good thing. We're going to call that penetration rates. We've identified how many people out of 1,000 have we identified that need that level of treatment. And I think once we get to that number and then we see it level off, then we'll know what's the real number in Stokes County that we really need to be targeted on. And once we get that number, then we can start monitoring our data points, like you said, and say, are we being effective in what we're doing with all of our points in the system? And I think that's when we come back together and talk about, well, this is working and this isn't working, and we need to adjust that because we want to put the money where it's working right and being the most effective for the community.
In that process you just described, where's the logical place to establish a baseline that we're going to work from?
Yeah, well,
After you kind of do this for a while, or?
Yeah, we're gonna get some baseline statistics. We can come into a county and say, okay, Stokes County has X amount of population based on statistical data. That means that, there's X a number of people that we should be reaching. But again, that's statistical. We're gonna come in and get some real numbers, but we're probably gonna be, 9 months, a year into this before we really start getting look-back numbers to where we can say, okay, where did we come from? How did we get that? How many people did we help along the way? The great thing is both Birches and October Road are great at collecting data. You're going to see reports. I think Birches has provided that report to you that they do. We'll be providing some reports to you from VIA as well, just showing the number of your citizens that have engaged, how many of them are in these individual treatment services, so we can say, hey, are we doing a good job? Are we not doing a good job? Where are we missing individuals across the system? But in anything like this, it's like a balloon, right? You squeeze it over here, it's going to pop out over here, right? And it's really up to us as a system in a community, which is why this community integration is so important, is we need to predict that, hey, when we start engaging the community over here, you're going to see some movement over here, and we need to be prepared to adjust our thinking, the way we do business based on the community. You got to be extremely flexible. In rural communities, you just can't open an office and just hope that somebody's going to walk through your door and provide services to them.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Marticus?
I'd like to thank each and every one of you that spoke on this. Wendy, that's your name, correct, Wendy? I'd like to say how proud I am of you for what you've accomplished. I've dealt with this in my home for probably 15, 18 years, and I've always been a firm believer in this. There's no better person to talk to that's been there and done that in your situation. It's hard for me as a dad to talk to them because I've never been there. But it's like my son or you, nobody started out to want to be hooked on drugs. Nobody did. It just happened that way, and it's progressively got worse. And I'm like Commissioner Morris, it's a big issue in our county. Me being in the fire service, we had probably 5 or 6 overdoses this past week in our county. So it's not going away. A lot of people just, I think, want to try to brush it to the side, but it's not. It's going to get progressively get worse if some type of treatment is not brought into the county. I mean, my son goes to Forsyth County. Is methadone the answer? I don't know. I know it helps, and there's a cost there. And, again, it's like the gentleman said, he has no insurance, so nobody wants to help him. But we just can't brush these people off, There's got to be a helping point there somewhere. I appreciate what y'all really trying to do here.
Thank you. I just want to say that we are looking forward to working with you. school system 37 years. From kindergarten through high school. And so I've seen this principal at North Stokes High School, and it's anybody that tells you that any county doesn't have issues of this type, they're in denial. It's there. You may not want to accept it, but it's there.
Yep.
And I've worked with different groups. I was on the advisory board with Cardinal out in Weston for 3 or 4 years. I met some of you people at the County Commissioners Conference, and they seem very enthusiastic about working with Stokes County, and that's what I want to see. I want to see a group come in here that really wants to dig in and help our county. We may not have but 47,000 people in Stokes County, but guess what? To me, as a county commissioner, those 47,000 people are the most important people that I deal with because they live where I live. They're part of our group. And I'm just looking forward to great things from y'all. And the groups you've got up on the board, I think, are good groups to start out with. And I think what you'll get out of that is from them, they'll be able to give you some other options to go to. And it's going to take everybody working hard at this to improve. I've seen it. And it's not pretty, but it's there. But we're here to help if we can. Thank you.
Really appreciate that. And let me just say is our philosophy is when you chose us, your citizens are our citizens, your neighbors are our neighbors. We're going to be in this community and we're going to fight along the way. We might not always have all the resources that any of us would want, but we're going to be right here with you in that process. And let me say your 47,000 are bigger than a large number of our other counties. So your 40,000, you're a lot bigger than you think. When you think of our little Swain County, we may have 13,000 people. We do the same in Swain County than we would do in any other county. We show up, we make sure that there are services for those 13,000 people that deserve it just as much as the 500,000. So we appreciate it, and you're right, we can't do it unilaterally. We need it with your support and your community support in order to make it work. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate everybody who presented, and really means a lot to have you come to our meeting and partner with us, because I believe it truly is going to take a partnership to make this happen with you guys, with VIA, with Birches, with October Road. And I think that's just the beginning of what we need to bring. The medical assisted, I'm excited about that. Had a family member that was going to Forsyth to get that treatment, but because of the transportation issues, stopped and just started a downhill slide again. So, had he had something closer by, he may still be in medical assisted treatment and not be where he's at right now. So, this is something that touches just about every family that I know in some form or fashion, whether it's people that I work with raising their grandchildren because of addiction. That's a huge problem in our county, is these grandparents, and they don't have any resources to help them. You mentioned no insurance. I could probably not name anybody who I know who needs help with addiction services that has insurance. That's virtually unheard of, that anybody that needs it would have insurance. So that is a big problem. And I think, most of us up here are touched by it somehow and want to see resources for our county, because there is, and you mentioned that the northern end up here, there's nothing, but there's nothing on the southern end either. I don't know that you mentioned there were, but I don't know of anything other than some mental health maybe. offices that may be in that area, but it's needed across the board in this county. And because even from the other end to Winston, you're still looking at 30 minutes or more. So anywhere in our county would be great, and the more the better that you could bring. So we just really appreciate it, but I think you're right. We have to be very intentional with what we do, because just opening an office and slapping a sign on the door is not going to get it. You got to build relationships and move forward from there. I'd really love to see some type of round table to bring in all the stakeholders, with the commissioners, with you guys, with law enforcement and the mental health, the boots on the ground right now. We have a lot of people in our county, Evelyn Lemon's one of them, that really is in the trenches right now with this, and they're the people we need to be talking to with you guys. And we can provide you with that information too. So.
Be great. You got that right there. Yeah.
For sure.
We
But
gotta
thank
do that.
you.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
excited about moving forward with you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank y'all for being here, and we're just looking forward to the progress you guys are going to bring.
Okay, and we'll be back and let you know where we're at.
Thank you.
Thank you. Move on now to our discussion agenda. Item A, the tax office agenda. Mr. Richard Brown.
Good afternoon.
Evening.
Evening. Yeah. As always, I'll start off with the monthly tax collection status report. Happy to report that we've collected a little over $14.5 million, or 58.75% of the budget amount. Last year at this time, we had a good year last year, and last year at this time we were 58.15%, so we're ahead of where we were last year, so that's great. The next item is our quarterly discovery and garnishment report. We have discovered 69 accounts, a little over $480,000 of value. It's going to generate about $4,300 in revenue. We've processed 118 garnishments. Levy on that is $55,600, $77. Moving along to the quarterly EMS billing and collection report. We have billed 963 transports, charged out a little over $614,000, and collected a little over $484,500 in revenue. Our quarterly report for Datamax, including the NC debt set-off, is $10,785. Releases less than $100, we have 4 accounts that total $97.80. Refunds less than $100, we have 1 account that's $66.39. Releases more than $100, we have 8 accounts that total $3,668.85. And then finally, the refunds of more than $100, we have 14 accounts that total $5,595.56. And then the last item I have is we have 4 late applications for elderly exemption. And that's all I have.
All right. Any questions, comments, Mr. Brown? All right. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, sir. And I'd like to move the releases more than 100, refunds more than 100, and the elderly exemption late applications to the November 8th consent agenda.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, sir. Move on to item B, the Animal Shelter Study Group. Ms. Shaver.
So at a couple of meetings, we discussed the construction of a new animal shelter, and it was the consensus of the board to put together a study group to discuss details surrounding the shelter, location, size, anything else we might find important. I reached out to some people in the community and have put some names in front of you to consider and some rationale behind those. So I've discussed with Mike Marshall, our former sheriff, who also ran the shelter for a number of years, would he be interested in being in that study group, and he had committed to doing that if we would like him to. He'd have a lot of, I think, good information because he's ran the shelter for a number of times, knows some of the struggles with the small space that we have now. I also reached out to Candace Lloyd, who is currently on our Animal Control Advisory Board committee. She also operates the Space Stokes organization in Stokes County, and she was a former member of the Friends of Stokes board. So she's got a lot of knowledge of a lot of different programs. So she'd be really valuable. And she started giving me some information on some architectural groups in Virginia that do nothing but build shelters and do all kinds of interesting things. And then Linda Mabe, another former member of the Friends of Stokes board, who was on the board during the construction of the Stokes shelter there, would be a good person to have in the county to be on that, and has committed to be on there as well. Lisa Dunlap, who also is from Stokes, has volunteered a lot of time at the Stokes County Shelter, goes over, takes pictures, tries to get them help adopted. Just another good member that's agreed to be on there. And then those are all my community members that was gathered. As far as staff here, myself and Amber, just because we're a good liaison to the board, coming back with everything that's going on with the board. Glenda Pruitt, our special project manager, she need to be involved just to be able to, on the logistical side of things, to be able to carry out information. And then Scotty Kaiser, of course, who is the current director of the shelter. So that was the list that I feel comfortable with and compiled. But if you all have any suggestions or anybody else that you've heard from or anything like that, I'm glad to reach out to anybody. But I think I could get that group moving pretty soon and get a meeting together and start that conversation about the shelter.
Looks good to me.
Good.
Everybody good?
So, and I'm looking at it more like a study group. I mean, we're not going to, it's not, I think we can all agree and come up with good recommendations to come back with on what needs to happen next. So I don't really, per se, unless you all want to do that, need a formal appointment of anybody. I can just put that study group together if you all are comfortable with that. That's good.
I'm good.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. Move on to item C, the civilian member fire commissioner appointment. Ms. Brown?
So there's a vacancy for a civilian member position on the Stokes County Fire Commission. It was posted on the website for several weeks, and we've received only one application, and that's from Richard Arrington. And his application was attached to the agenda.
Okay. Amber, I had somebody that contacted me today that texted me that wanted to do it. Is it too late for them to put their name in there? Okay. All right. At this time, I'll open the floor for any further nominations. And the one I had was Chris Smith.
We need to add one man. Chris Smith. You're adding Chris Smith. Is that correct?
What's your other, the other name?
The other one was Richard Arrington.
Richard Arrington.
Okay, so you're going to nominate Richard Arrington and Chris Smith.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion that we close nominations for the civilian members with the two listed, that we can take a poll on at our next meeting. And that would be Chris Smith and Richard Arrington.
All right. Have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Move on to, they'll be pulling the action for next agenda. Okay. Item D, the Station 40 emergency funds request. Ms. Shaver?
So we received a request, an emergency request. They had a boiler that blew out at Station 40 at South Stokes Fire and Rescue. They have made the repair on that, but in accordance with the policy for Fire Service District and Fire Commission and use of service district funds, it requires approval of the Board of Commissioners as a final decision. That policy is also on the agenda for you, and that section's highlighted on page 1, outlining how they have to get that final permission from you all to do that repair. They also had approval from their board to approve the 4 of the originally requested 6 AEDs, and the other 2 they were trying to attain, I think, with grant funding. So they're asking for the approval of the board on those, and also Julia has provided, and I'll give you a copy of that, a budget amendment number 37 for $14,500. You want to pass that to them? $14,500. If you would take action on this today, if you will, they've already had to make the repair because it was an emergency repair. This budget amendment will just allocate the funds from the service district fund balance back to where they need to go to make that right in the budgeting system.
Okay. Any questions or comments on it first? Everybody good for moving this action today?
I am.
Yeah, and when you move it to action, if you could approve the amount and the budget amendment, and also if you would approve that request they're making for the 4 out of the 4 AEDs, because their board has already approved that as well, but they just need your final approval on that item too while we're doing that.
We'll make it.
They've not gotten quotes on that yet. That's the reason that's not included in the budget amendment.
And when they do, we can put that budget amendment on consent. But
We'll make it item D on the action agenda. We'll move on to item E, proclamation honoring Blues Creek workers. Ms. Shaver?
So I and Will Carter received a request from Jimmy Flythe, who is here in attendance today at the meeting. Thanks for being here. The director for the Central Region Government and Community Relations for Duke Energy in North Carolina, asking us to, for our board to today, if they will, at this meeting, so it'll be in place for the November 1st date, to adopt this proclamation recognizing the employees at the Blues Creek Steam Station. And I'll just read a piece of this, that Whereas November 1st is designated as a Power Plant Worker Appreciation Day in recognition of the men and women who generate the electricity we all depend on. And whereas these workers power our lives and deserve recognition and should know how much we respect, value, and appreciate them for reliably providing one of life's essential services 24 hours a day. And whereas these workers give back to the local communities where they live and work while volunteering their time and talent and providing financial contributions to nonprofits. And whereas many power plants serve as the bedrock of entire communities, contributing to the vitality and economic growth of local communities, providing high-wage jobs and generating millions in annual property and other taxes. Whereas Stokes County is home to Blues Creek Steam Station, which generates enough energy to serve more than 1 million homes. And so if our board would consider adopting this today, proclaiming that Stokes recognizes November 1st as Power Plant Worker Appreciation Day and appreciation for our Stokes County workers at the Blues Creek Steam Station plant.
Shannon,
Yes.
I'd like to make two comments on that. First, I think I'd like to see this move to action today, because it's occurring at this time. And second, I'd like to ask Mr. White if he'd come up and make a couple of comments, please.
Thank you all. Appreciate the opportunity, and our employees surely do appreciate the recognition. Our plant manager, Michael Lanning, was not able to be here today. He sends his regards. The plant right now is in their normal fall maintenance outage, and they're hard at it. And he said they just couldn't spare anybody. But he said he would like to come up and in a future meeting at some point when the outage is over and sit down and meet some folks. I think he was appointed kind of after COVID got started, so really hadn't had an opportunity to get out in the community a whole lot. But our employees work hard, and they've COVID. Think how long we've been going through that, and a lot of not knowing what would happen early on, but they've maintained and kept the plant operating just as efficiently and as effectively as before COVID. And so we appreciate the opportunity to recognize what they do and their contributions. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'll take this back and share it with them if it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more comments? Everybody give a moving this action? Okay, item E on the action agenda. All right, we'll now move to our action agenda. On item A, the request to change pay grades. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item B, the fire commissioner appointments. At the last meeting, Brad Mitchell and Keith Pierce were nominated to fill 2 fire commissioner terms for fire service member positions. We need to open the floor for any, I'll open the floor for any further nominations.
Motion to close.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll now poll the board. Start for Commissioner Morris.
Mitchell and Pierce.
Mitchell and Pierce.
Mitchell, Pierce.
Mitchell Pierce.
Mitchell and Pierce. Item C, designation of county attorney and authorized representative for the opioid lawsuit. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve this request.
Second.
You got that one?
Great.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item D, Station 40 emergency funds request for budget amendment number 37.
And the AED. And the AED request.
And the AED.
Request.
Do we know the price of these AEDs before we approve them?
I've not done a budget amendment for that part, I only did a budget amendment for the air conditioning.
Okay, well, I don't,
37.
okay, well, I don't like approving something I don't know what it costs.
Don't have any idea at all?
They'll send it when they get them, they've approved it at the service, as far as their meeting, they just have to get funded. But you can wait and approve that one Yeah. separately at the time we get the
Yeah.
budget amendment from them.
Can we go ahead and just do a motion on the
Yes.
budget amendment number
Yeah,
37?
they were just asking for
Okay.
both items, but you could just, yeah.
So we'll just make it for motion 37 only. Do I have a motion on that?
Yeah.
Make a motion on that.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item E, proclamation honoring Blues Creek workers. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Amber, would you read the closed session rationale for us, please?
To consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3, to consider and take action with respect to the position to be taken by the county in negotiating the price or other material terms of an agreement for the acquisition release of real property pursuant to General Statute 143-318.1185.
Have a motion to go into closed.
Motion that we enter closed based on that rationale.
Second.
Who wants?
Go ahead.
All right, Wayne. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're closed. All right, if there's no further, oh yeah, I'll switch the camera to you. People probably don't want to see it, do they? Okay. If there's no further business, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Need adjourn.